A little bit of sadness today in addition to the usual dose. John Kenneth Galbraith has passed away. Saw it on the news this morning. I actually read it on my internet page. 97. One cannot regret a life of 97 years. Most famous for the Affluent Society. I think it might deserve a reread right now, but that's not why I'm here today. Go back and read about it. I'm sorry. If you are particularly astute, this is not the sermon title you saw on the corner earlier this week. I conceived that one some time ago, and what came to mind was a passage found in the Gospels when Jesus asks his disciples, well, who do people say that I am? He's a sly devil, you know. He invites other people to say things. And the idea at the time, and it still is a good idea, was to ask not what do we Fountain Streeters think we are, but what do other people say we are? You know, they may not be the same thing. A few weeks ago, I changed my mind about the sermon title, but I'm not a really well-organized person, so I didn't tell the people printing the chimes. And so they opened up the chimes and put the other title out there. And then in the middle of the week, around Tuesday, I came in and realized that the stuff going in the order of service was different from the, and I said, can we help me out? I'm sorry. Can we make the one on the corner consistent with what's in the order of service in the newspaper? You know, it's just, and they helped me out. But it turns out by absolute coincidence that my colleague up the street at Central Reform chose almost the exact same title that I'm replacing. And I wanted to let you know that I wasn't ducking the challenge. In fact, I have often contemplated purloining sermon titles from other preachers just to see what would come out. So I chose another title, which in this case is also a quotation, but you may not recognize it, at least its source. Its author is Florence Reese, who lived in Harlan County, Kentucky in 1931 and was married to a union organizer during the very bitter coal mine strike of that day. Remember, the 1930s were deeply turbulent times. Labor was exercised, and there was absolute terror that a communist revolution was just around the corner. So strikes were particularly bitter. And the sheriff, working for J.H. Blair, the owner of the mine, came and sat outside her house with his men to catch her husband and ostensibly end his life. And she penned, I should say, her thoughts and parked them on the door of her house. Turned out to be a song. Come all you good workers, good news to you I'll tell of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell. Which side are you on? 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 And let's hear the other verse. They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals here. There you'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Some of you know this. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab or will you be a man? Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are we on? My point is to ask a question. We have principles. In fact, that's one of the most important things about this church. A lot of you, not all of you, but a lot of you at some point experienced growing up in a different religious environment and noticed that what they heard on Sunday was starkly different from what people did on Monday. Am I right? And that sense of hypocrisy got inside of you. And you said, I can't be part of an institution where they say this and do that instead. So I'm going to go to a place where what I say and what I do are consistent. Integrity is important, and it is. And I agree. And for liberal religion, it is kind of the summum bonum of what we're about. So If you came here so you could live by your principles, so what you said and what you did were consistent, shouldn't the church also live by its principles? Make choices. I know this is hard. This is hard not just for us. It's hard for a lot of liberal churches because they either lapse into a kind of convenient ideological liberalism in which what is being said by the DNC becomes a virtual theology. Or they say, ooh, we can't really make any choices because that would infringe upon someone's right to be different from us. And I think I have to disagree with both options. So in this sermon and the next three, I'm going to try to lay out how we ought to have a social ministry that we own, not just one that we can take part in. And it is that, and a social ministry that is as clear and obvious to us as why we do this on Sunday or hold character school. Because I don't think the problem is that we actually disagree about our basic principles. I really don't. I think it really is lack of courage to live by them collectively. I told you back in January I was going to get in trouble, and I waited until after Easter, give me credit. And I told you back in January that the largest problem we face as an institution is fear of losing something, making the wrong choice, hurting someone's feelings. And nothing is more fearful, really, than standing up as a community, choosing sides about principles, both within ourselves and in the community. Now, you'll note a few moments ago I used the word social ministry, not social action. Part of the problem is that we have this idea about social action. You know what it is, those wild-eyed hotheads who just want to get up in marches and sign petitions and wave banners. And, that's not me. But if living by our principles is what we should do, then what we need is a ministry, not a committee, not a group of people who have the freedom to do what they want, but a church that does what it means. Something that comes out of our vision, our mission, our principles, that involves the whole institution. Now, to be fair, I should say there are already elements of social ministry going on. Jonathan came here today because we have a social action committee. There are a group of members in this church, God bless them, who have been tutoring children at what is now the campus school for several years at this point. But all of them fit in one room downstairs. We give money. Our social action committee supports a little of this and a little of that. You personally give money, and we funnel it to Access and the Choice Fund and all sorts of good things. Today is the clothing drive. There's a truck outside to collect the clothing. And there's probably even more going on that I don't know about, and stuff you don't know about. But none of that is owned the way this worship service is owned as a self-evident thing we do. It's optional. But character school is not optional, is it? Worship is not optional. It's part of our identity. And my desire is to articulate a way of doing social ministry so that it is not optional. It is what we do as part of being a church. You may not like the outcome. You may not want to be that eager. The way to do this, I think, is to go back to principles. It's not about issues, although issues make us think about principles. It's about the principles that we think matter all the time. And unless a principle is at stake, is it urgent and important, we have nothing to do. By contrast, let's take a look. A few years